Hello there, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Viewpoint. Of course, we're taking a look deep into the activities that are taking place in our country, whether at the political level, whether at the level of the government in terms of management of our country and our economy. Today, we want to focus a little bit on corruption in the government, and of course, I have with me here Bishop Juan Edghill. He's a member of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party, and of course, one of the focal persons in terms of finance in the National Assembly. And we want to zero in specifically in terms of corruption on state media, because there have been so many reports out there talking about a high level of corruption, cronyism, and all sorts of things in the National Communications Network, the Guyana Chronicle, and of course the Department of Public Information, all of which are headed by political operatives of the government, despite a promise, Bishop Edghill, before I bring you in, from the Prime Minister in 2015 that, the accusations about the PPP pushing all sorts of its members and its leaders into these positions in these agencies to hijack the state media, that all of that will be changed. The Prime Minister did exactly, or even worse, and now issues of corruption arising out of each of these organizations. So, Bishop Edghill, welcome to the program.
Well, Eddie, thank you for having me, and let me extend greetings to all of our viewers. The subject that we are dealing with this afternoon, corruption in government, is an extremely wide subject because corruption is the cancer that is eating out the soul of this country. I don't believe that in the history of Guyana we have had a government that is so inept, incompetent, arrogant, and I want to say with a big capital C, corrupt. Now, the misuse, the abuse, the waste, or the wastage, the extravagance that has been taking place by this government is one that is cause for every taxpayer to start thinking, are these people that we could trust to manage the state of affairs? I want to make a fundamental point that the people of Guyana should examine the people in the public service who work in the ministries that these ministers superintend. I want you to examine it. Wherever an APNU minister is in charge, a cabal of APNUites are employed in that ministry, whether special assistants, researchers, the agencies that they oversee, the APNUites are appointed there. Then when you go to a ministry that is superintended by an AFC person, the same thing happens. AFC persons are there. If someone is to do a check, and I've been looking at it, and you list the entire executive of the AFC, all of them are either employed at NCN, DPI, Chronicle, Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Business. And these are where all AFC types and their executive. But what is most glaring, and I think we should spend some time dealing with that, because I've been talking about corruption in public procurement. I've been talking about corruption in government projects, whether it's the airport. We've been talking about corruption in the whole sole sourcing of drugs at the Ministry of Health and the breaches that have taken place. But one of the things that probably has been escaping the attention of Guyanese is corruption at the state media. I'm talking here NCN, Chronicle, and the DPI. These three state, I didn't say government, these three state-owned information outlets or media outlets have been so hijacked by the AFC because the minister responsible for information is the Honorable Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu.
Or if I can correct you, the minister whose title
Okay. Is information.
is information.
And in those three outlets, this distinguished gentleman who prided himself and presented himself to this nation as a paragon of virtue, as a man who is above board. As a matter of fact, I left the PPP because of corruption in the PPP. One would have expected that the agencies and the institutions or the departments that had anything to do with the Prime Minister would have been the standard bearer of uprightness, would have been the standard bearer that would have projected to all the rest of the government, hey guys, you are messing up. This is how business is to be done, straight, a meritocracy, following rules. But may the Lord have mercy on all of us in Guyana, because the cloak that was covering the real man has been exposed. And what we are seeing is a corruption, an abuse, a misuse of a type unheard of in the state media. And Eddie, let me tell you why I'm concerned about this. While I was a minister of government and member of cabinet in the 10th Parliament, I answered in the Parliament for expenditure of the office of the President.
Yes.
NCN, GINA, and the Chronicle fell under the office of the President. Because you will know, wherever minister is not being assigned the responsibility, the President is that minister.
Yes.
So information was a matter that was handled from the office of the President. I was called upon to answer questions by Mr. Nagamutu and his cabal in the AFC, Mr. Granger and his cabal in the APNU. Recall that they cut the budget of GINA to $1, basically saying, fire everybody in GINA. What was their complaint? Access to the state media. Now, while we were in government, Mr. Nagamutu and all of the opposition had the opportunity to appear on television. They were invited to do televised debates where their views could be heard. There was a whole series of debates on corruption.
If I can interject there, to probably bolster that point, I know personally, especially during the budget debates,
yes,
I was responsible for coordinating the TV programs and so forth for NCN from
the Parliament.
You know, and when you go to, we invite them all the time. I think just one minister attempted to appear on one of the programs talking about the budget, and he was pulled off by
I recall that.
Ali.
I recall
right?
I recall that.
The budget, also the corruption debate series. During the election campaigns, they always get a spot in terms of their rallies and so forth. During the debates in Parliament, we always see them. We are not seeing that now.
But let me just contrast that with what is happening now, or compare and contrast with what's happening now. Just recently, during budget 2019, myself, our Chief Whip, Madam Gail Teixeira, and my colleague, Honorable Irfan Ali, we were standing together, chatting before the start of the sitting, and we noticed the DPI, NCN, is interviewing MPs. So Madam Gail Teixeira said to the girl, when will be my turn? I would like to make a comment. as well. She says, let me check. She made a call to someone who made a call to someone, and we had to wait, and then they come back. You know what was the answer that the young lady gave to the three of us? It's only government MPs.
Wow.
State resources. This is not AFC campaign money. This is not the AFC propaganda newspaper. This is not the AFC's Facebook page. This is state resources. The cameras out there bought with taxpayers' money. The staff that is behind the cameras, taxpayers paying them. The cost of that van in the yard that is transmitting these broadcasts live, taxpayers paying for it. And MPs that belong to the opposition are not allowed. I would like, and I challenge the DPI, NCM, to produce one interview, one program where they ask a government MP for an opposition MP for a comment during budget 2019. Now, they may have carried the speeches from the House, which was live streamed and all the rest of it. But even that, we are told, there are times when they just cut the whole broadcast. When the government is speaking, I know they carried the opposition leaders' debate, but many of the other opposition MPs had no coverage whatsoever. And this is the hypocrisy that must be exposed. Here it is that Moses Nagamutu, a gentleman who prides himself as a journalist, who believes in freedom of expression and freedom of the press, is presiding over state outfits that is basically practicing yellow journalism. You know, I spoke to someone, and for the sake of not putting them in trouble, I wouldn't call names, who wrote for Chronicle and also worked for Gene in the past. And they told me, you know, what's going on now? Stories are being fabricated.
Oh, you're seeing that every day. You're seeing that every day.
I'm not talking about putting a twist and a spin. They're fabricating stories. Look what they have done to Schumann, who's trying to form a political party. He's a political opponent. Give him the treatment. And who's leading that fight? The Guyana Chronicle. But you know what is worse is the incestuous relationships and the kind of maladministration and corrupt practices that is taking place that is worrying. During the consideration of the estimates, I brought to the attention of the Prime Minister, if he is aware that a member of his staff who holds a senior position in the editorial arrangement, if their spouse is also being engaged to do graphic work and design. You know, the Prime Minister said in Parliament, you don't know that the two people are related. And even if they are related, what is so wrong with the spouse giving to the other spouse work? And when we asked about what it costs for the graphic work for each edition, he said it's 80,000. Right? Now, Edward, you and I know how many editions of these so-called papers that are being sent to various parts of the hinterland and all the machinations that are taking place. So a wife is giving the husband work. The staff of the DPI have said to me, and I say this without the fear of contradiction, the young lady don't even have the qualifications that some of them possess. And she has been, they have been superseded and put her in that position. And they're upset, they're annoyed, because they know the only reason why she was given that position is to satisfy this policy of employing AFC types to control the state media to ensure that a particular message and that they serve as filters to ensure a certain angle is taken. I know what is worse? It would appear that even in the state media, and I don't want to be the one to get into their house because the AFC APNU marriage is a troubling affair by itself. But even the Chronicle and the NCN and the DPI don't seem to be promoting the interests of the government. It seems that some ministers of the PNC or the APNU is actually left out. Their coverage is very restricted
to AFC.
To AFC.
And
the president has his own media outfit that is headed by Mr. Archer. So you could imagine you have a Department of Public Information, which should be serving all the government, the president, the prime minister, and all the ministers. The president has his own outfit at the Ministry of the Presidency. Every minister got its own communications department with public relations officers and cameramen. And then you have the DPI, which is the mouthpiece of the AFC. The DPI has a nexus of control and relationship because of the individuals who are involved to control the Chronicle. And then they also have those who are from the DPI who are also involved in the NCN. So the incestuous control of the AFC types. It's not just money that they're creaming off, because that is one of the concerns that we need to talk about, the corruption, because it's the wanton wastage and the extravagance and the misuse of taxpayers' money. But it's that incestuous relationship that exists there among a few friends and executives of the AFC under the control and command of the Prime Minister, who's the minister with some portfolio for information. And you know, we said this in the Parliament, and I know it must be annoying to say again to Mr. Nagamutu, but he's, as Prime Minister, his portfolio has been reduced to the duties that Kwame McCoy, information liaison to the President, had. That is the power of the Prime Minister. The same responsibilities that the information liaison Kwame McCoy had in the office of the President, that's the functions of the Prime Minister.
Well, I don't think it's the same responsibility. I think it's less because of the fact that Mr. Archer controls the President.
Oh yes, yes. And this is just the Prime Minister, not even all the other government ministers.
Yes, but I want to interject, and I want to, because we're spending some time on DPI. And this letter that was sent to the press and was carried in one of the newspapers dated September 17, 2018. I'm going to read a quote from this. And it says here, I quote, "We believe that the DPI is being badly mismanaged and it has led to staff either resigning, being suspended, and the DPI being severely understaffed and failing to attract newcomers who we believe have gotten wind of the manner in which the DPI is being run." It went on to say, in this case of, they talk about, you know, who and who involved. In this case, is this a case of friends hiring friends? Why else our complaints be brushed off and the individual at the center of these problems be given a pass, while those who raise these concerns are targeted with suspension and deduction from their salaries? So this is not us talking on the outside. This is what the staff of the DPI are talking about. They're talking about retreats that are costing the state hundreds of thousands of dollars, and contracts being doled out to friends and family and husband and wife and all sorts of things. So this is coming from the staff of DPI.
Yes, and in that same letter, the staffers expressed the need for a full-blown probe by President David Granger. Right?
Yes.
And they said they know that there will be political conflict if such a probe is conducted by the Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu's office. Because DPI is headed by a husband whose wife is the legal person in the Prime Minister's office. So the people knew that you can't ask the Prime Minister's office to lead this probe because it's going to be the wife investigating the husband. and the acts are full-blown probe by President Granger. We don't know if any action has been taken because we have seen nothing concerning this. But here you have state resources, hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into this outfit that is being misused to malign, ostracize, vilify, denigrate, destroy reputations, and to carry propaganda that is not helping what the government talks about social cohesion. You could imagine if the government has a policy of social cohesion, they've actually put in a ministry of social cohesion, and not that we believe them, because I have said since 2015, the Ministry of Social Cohesion is a replacement of the old PNC, Ministry of National Mobilization, where you pass monies through to be able to get to your support base to do all the necessary political work. That's what's going on in ministries. But let's say, for example, the whole idea and the laudable tagline of social cohesion is something good. DPI, Chronicle, and NCN should be following that government policy that their programs are towards bringing people together, not dividing this country. And here it is, you going into the pockets of taxpayers, taxing them, putting on 200 taxes and fines and fees, putting VAT on all kinds of pro-food items, putting VAT on water and electricity to generate revenue, to fund an outfit that is for friends and families to suit the AFC, and it is an outfit that is really creating hurt, pain, and dividing the society. And some of the transactions to get this propaganda out is where the problem is, because it's where the money is. It's where the money is. It's all tied up. The money is all tied up among a small group. No processes, no accountability, no transparency, and that's what we're crying out again. This corruption in the state media must be exposed.
I want to move you quickly because we just have 30 minutes, so we have probably about 10 or 12 minutes more to go. So I want to move you quickly to Guyana Chronicle, where there is a so-called probe launched by the Prime Minister at this entity, which is headed by an AFC executive, a top official of the AFC. And I want to read quickly for the members of the public, and then of course you're going to comment on this, where it says here in this report, and this is about 3 months ago or so, they launched this probe. It's September 8th, 2018. It says, as the company pushes its social media coverage of news, records show that in June, that was last year, the company paid $189,995 for a laptop for the general manager, and in July, one Apple iPad for $100,000. $159,000 to O. Jeffers to complete work on the Guyana Chronicle's Facebook page. A Facebook page, anybody can set this up.
The 10-year-old. The kids are setting up Facebook page.
Maybe for boosting, you're gonna pay some money. But let me go on quickly. I want to just go through this. And $191,500 to a company to work on the website and front page. So this is in July. $191,000 to work on the front page of the website. In August, another $400,000 was paid to another company, as well as $54,000 to an individual for work on the website and the front page.
Same front page?
Yes, in 3 months. 2 months. It went on. I'm going to give you a chance just now. It went on to say the company purchased a drone for $140,000, paid $93,024 for 2 backdrops. That is in July. In August, a retractable banner valued at $55,000 was bought. Then in August, another company got $271,806 for truss and cable floor stand. We go on. It's not ended this yet. In July, $259,700 for a computer for the social media coordinator. That has to be a very expensive and fancy computer. $140,000 for a drone base.
But the drone, you got in the base, $140,000. And the base is more expensive than the drone.
Yes. Then $65,000, $100,000 for the drone, $140,000 for the base. $59,000 for hard drive and monitor and so on. It went on the social media output put, this is what the newspaper would have written, appears to be costing the company a huge chunk of revenue. 74,000 requested by the general manager to live stream the national grade 6 assessment. Now, all
just go live. Just
go there with your phone or go there with your computer
just
and
go
you
live.
go live. Why are we paying 74,000? Then $140,000 for streaming of World Cup football. Just pull the feed from NCN and you go if you want to stream. I don't know, matter of fact, I don't think they could have streamed this because of the legal ramifications with regards to broadcast rights. Then in June, the general manager requested $586,602 for a trip to New York. That includes $74,000 for daily allowances, $104,000 for meals, $106,000 for miscellaneous expenses. This was a vacation actually, not work. $215,000 for accommodation, right? Then you went on. Purchase of airline ticket from Fly Jamaica for the New York visit, $149,000. $20,000 for prayer ceremony. When this general manager was appointed, he had to spend $20,000 for prayer ceremony. $6,825 for lunch at the National Tushhouse Conference, and I understand people saw him eating at the National Tushhouse Conference. It seems like we're not going to finish. $22,000 for medical examination for a trip to China. $200,000 to go to Letem for meals and miscellaneous and so on. $40,000, I think, or $50,000 would take you to Letem. Transportation, not a $50,000 or less for meals. Repairs to the general manager's vehicle. $319,000 in June. $22,000 in June. $55,000 in June. $77,000 in June. That's during 1 month. In July, another $275,000 on the same vehicle. Purchase foreign currency of $677,000 for Carrier and Focal Point New York edition of the Guyana Chronicle. Absolutely, we don't know what that means. It went on to purchase a whole host of other things from all sorts of places, stationery, office furniture, fancy chairs and so on, for the general manager, close to $5 million within a few months.
It is reflective, monkey see, monkey do. This is the general manager under Moses Nagamutu, the Prime Minister. When the Prime Minister got into government, he couldn't live in the Prime Minister's residence until it was totally refurbished. All the furniture had to be thrown out. Everything brand new had to come in. He had to get a vehicle that cost $20 million. Monkey see, monkey do. So if the boss is going into that kind of extravagance, I have to get a laptop, I have to get an iPad, I have to get a drone, it's monkey see, monkey do. This is what we talk about, the waste, extravagance. And it is not that this expenditure is bringing in anything productive for the country. It is just going into a dark hole. And Eddie, I recall Moses Nagamutu in the National Assembly with his hands up, the scissors. Remember that action? We're going to cut the budget. We're going to cut the budget. We're going to cut the budget. Now, what is Moses Nagamutu going to say right now about superintending over, number one, the misuse of the state media for narrow political purposes, AFC oriented, the misuse of the state media to attack persons who he has a grouse with, the misuse of the state media by blocking out the views of persons who share a different political opinion. And then you put for the management of the state media all your cronies, in cases husband and wife in various entities in an incestuous relationship, most of them, if not all of them, executives and high-ranking officials of the AFC. And then you have this kind of expenditure and layout from them where they're living the good life at the taxpayers' expense. And when you listen to the content and what is coming out and what even they're putting on Facebook is so divisive, it's not even in keeping with the government's policy of social cohesion. It's not that we believe that they're serious about it. And then, of course, the whole complaint internally about how they're using these outlets to even attack their own colleagues in the government. You know, let me give an example. I was totally disappointed. I was part of the meeting yesterday with Dr. Jabdio when he met His Excellency the President. A good meeting, cordial atmosphere, exchange of views in a frank way, charting a course forward after that successful event of the no confidence motion and trying to make sure we maintain public order, public safety, public services are delivered, and that we get to the point of an election because the government has fallen and we need to get a new mandate. Today's Chronicle, what's the headline? No way. No
Exactly.
way. Listen to the headline of the Chronicle after the vote. Judas. Chandas is now Judas. You're using your newspaper,
The state newspaper.
the state newspaper, to attack people. And this is what is ridiculous. And I believe, Eddie, the people of Guyana have judged this matter and they know what is going on.
We're almost out of time, but I want to touch quickly on two things. One, with regards to NCN, that's a whole, we have just about a minute more, so that's a whole different thing, because I too was disappointed. I am saying that after you talk about, you know, moving forward, having dialogue, from yesterday's meeting, the Prime Minister and the Minister stated there were only two persons who appeared on NCN, and no intentions to call representatives
of the opposition for a comment. Or to appear on the program to discuss their perspective. And you want normalcy in the country.
And then you have there where the chairman of the board of director is also the CEO of the same company, so he's accounting to himself. He's answerable to himself.
And we don't know what he's being paid, and we don't know how is the gentleman who is also the graphic artist and designer of the newspapers from the DPI is an executive director that is being paid by NCN as well. These are all mysteries that are clouded. You know what? When these things should have been exposed in the Committee of Supply, time was used to restrict the questioning and the scrutiny. And that is what this government keeps doing. They don't want to account. They don't want good governance. They don't want transparency. So they find various mechanisms to ensure that they keep it. But Eddie, I close by saying, whatever's in the dark will come to light.
I don't want you to close yet. I'm going to give you probably 30 or 40 seconds to talk about. And we've been talking misuse of the state media houses. And the Ghana Chronicle today, that article that is published, a one-sided article that is only aimed at creating, in my view, some amount of racial division in our country.
Well, Eddie, I will be very modest because it concerned me. But the Chronicle has carried two articles rehashing the same thing that I supposedly would have said, some statement about Londoners, which never happened. You could imagine the Regional Committee of the People's Progressive Party, Civic, has issued a statement debunking the lies, pointing out that it never happened. The Chronicle never carried that statement. I have issued a statement saying it never happened, it's a concoction, it's a fabrication. They've never carried that statement. But today they rehash the same story by getting 4 APNU supporters, 2 MPs, and 2 others who are part of the APNU PNC machinery in Linden. You know why? I was in Linden on Monday, getting ready for the election campaign, and we had a massive turnout. The party office was full to capacity, getting ready to hit the road, and they got feedback. So what do you believe they're doing? It's reverse racism. They're trying to malign me because I am the party's point person in Linden, which is a place where they believe it's their territory. They got a transport for Linden. But more than 2,000 people told them that in 2015, you don't have my name on that transport. And in 2019, in the upcoming elections, which is 71 days away, because we got a 90-day clock that is ticking, the people of Linden will speak. In the local government elections, 1 out of every 5 voted. 21% was the turnout. 3 ministers going to Linden every week. 3 ministers going to Linden every week. Oh, trying to do all kinds of things, but the people know they lack sincerity. They are giving jobs to their family. Their husbands are the contractors. It is their sons that are getting the work. It is their party executives that are given all the work. It's a small group. We're not interested in only satisfying the needs of a small group. The PPPC's policies is about inclusion. And 2019, we are going back to the electorate with a policy of inclusion where we will work in the interest of all the people of Guyana.
Thank you very much, Bishop Juan Edghill. Of course, our discussions are corruption in government, and we focused today on the state media. We're going to continue this discussion, by the way, and we're going to focus on every single area in the government to bring to you, to expose to you where and how corruption is taking place widespread in this government. Until next time, I want to say thank you very much for joining us, and Bishop, again, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon.
Goodbye and good night.